everybody. Hey, I'm Kay Crystal Griffith, and I'm so glad that you joined us today for Emotions, Wisdom, and Your Body. So every day for 2021, we are going to spend 15 or 20 minutes to delve deeper into our emotions, their effects on our body, soul, and spirit. Remember, emotions are your body's wisdom. So here's your disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm a researcher, an information and referral queen at heart, really. I will find the most random things in the most hidden places. I also have my master's in education, a couple of emotional trauma certifications, and some inner healing accreditation, and some other things. But today, this is for education, edification, and encouragement. So what are we talking about today? Because we have a lot to talk about today. Invalidation. Have you ever felt like somebody was just dismissing your feelings? Telling you you're overreacting? That's totally irrational. Why are you being like that? There's no reason to be upset. And yet, you are. So to invalidate means to cancel something, make it void, as if it never happened. We're going to pretend like it's not what you're feeling, right? It invalidates you to see the word. It really makes it feel like, wait a minute, if they are telling me not to act like that, maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not correct. Maybe I'm not feeling the way I should be feeling. So when you invalidate something, you're really making it less true, less official, or less correct. So when you're saying these things to other people, that's how you're making them feel. Like they're rejected, ignored, mocked, teased, judged, controlled, even diminishing their feelings. Have you ever felt like that from someone else? I think we all really have. It's really an attempt to control how they feel or how long they feel it. So constant invalidation may be one of the most significant reasons a person has a high innate emotional intelligence that then suffers later in life with emotional unmet needs. So if you think about it, as a kid, if you're constantly being invalidated and not accepted, you're being abandoned and neglected in a lot of ways, but verbally, emotionally, dismissing those feelings as if you're not supposed to have them, you're supposed to just suppress them all the time or not even deal with them, that is going to lead to this high intelligence of unmet emotional needs later in life. This is a big deal, folks. That can lead to all kinds of things that we're about to discuss. So emotional invalidation is a form of manipulation as well. It's really an attempt to make you question your own feelings, your own thoughts, even your own experiences, which leads to gaslighting. And we talked a little bit about that last time. A pattern of invalidation is a form of emotional abuse. It's a denial of you and your experience. That's not good. It implies that you're wrong, you're overacting, maybe even that you're being implied that you're lying, which you know you're not. Invalidation is going to disrupt relationships. It's going to create emotional distance. And when people invalidate themselves because you're so used to being invalidated, why would you believe your own emotions, your own feelings, your own thoughts, those own Holy Spirit nudges within you? Why would you believe any of that? It's often extremely why you don't think you hear from God, because you think it's all in your head. So you must be making it up in there. And I'm here to tell you, you can hear from God. Do you know why? Because he's inside of you. God lives within you. Therefore, he talks to you all the time. Now, the question is whether or not you take those and you just ignore them or you dismiss them, or if you begin to go, God, was that you? You know that nudge you get to call somebody? That thought that somebody in your life is kind of on your heart? That's God. That's the Holy Spirit going, hey, that person, go focus on that person for a minute. Okay? So what's happening really? People who are trying to invalidate are really trying to create alienation from themselves, from other people, and they begin to build their identity in a challenging way, which is wrong. So their identity is really built into what other people are expecting from them. Other people are saying they should be, the labels that people are putting upon them, because they've now invalidated and allowed that invalidation to happen within their own life. They have no idea who they are. So it must be, I have to get that from someone else. So obviously invalidation is a very negative situation, right? So what is it doing to our body? So emotional invalidation wears you down. And in the long term, it does have those extremely negative effects. Self-confidence, well-being, anxiety, extreme anxiety. Studies have shown that it actually increases the likelihood of problems such as the anxiety, the depression, the borderline personality addiction, and addictions, and as well as you understanding that those addictions come out of you not being able to handle your own emotions. So, and those addictions range the great gamut from gambling to shopping to overeating to drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it. It's all the addictions, even binge watching on TV. If we're trying not to handle a situation, we will typically binge watch something on TV because we don't want to actually feel our emotions. Now, is there a time and a place? Sure, absolutely. Your kid's sick, you're sick, you just want to just chill, right? Because you're resting, you're in and out. That's one thing. But to sit there and spend 4 hours watching a TV show that you can't even remember where the 4 hours went, that's more on the borderline of addiction that we have to talk about. So really, invalidation is typically held in the lungs and the large intestine if you're looking for that body place that we're actually holding them. So emotions that are actively invalidated, this is kind of where we're heading. This is actually a form of emotional harm, emotional abuse, when you're constantly invalidating somebody else. So Dr. Webb offers 10 ways you can be invalidated that tend to have long-term effects. So let's just see if these ring a bell for anybody. Maybe your parents pretend to listen, but they really don't. And that was when you were a kid, or maybe you're doing that to your kids, or you know somebody that's doing that to their kids. And this happens during the childhood. You learn you're just not worth hearing. So you stop talking. And a lot of people who are introverts as adults have typically been invalidated within their life as a child. And they don't know how to speak up because they were constantly told not to. So you may have a learning disability or some other challenge that just goes unacknowledged. You know, there are kiddos that the teachers will convey to the parents, hey, your kid needs an eye exam or an ear exam, or perhaps it's ADHD, or maybe you might want to get them assessed for something else, or speech therapy situation or OT therapy situation, and the parents ignore it. Or even the teachers aren't sharing that. So it kind of can go both ways. We had a situation where we thought it was the concussions my kiddo had had. We didn't realize it was ADHD until I started asking the teachers, and they're all like, oh yeah, that's ADHD. I'm like, and I would have known that how? So we definitely need to work together for those that are teaching our kiddos, and now all of us seem to be teaching our kiddos at home, and you're learning all of those nuances about our kids as well. So we don't want to dismiss those. Definitely get all of that testing done for your kids, because you never know what you can uncover. Even dysgraphia, as well as dyslexia and non-learning disability. I didn't even know that existed until there was a diagnosis. And that is a huge thing, because we realized my kiddo was so visually driven as a learner. Anything that would show up as a visual, she got immediately. But to have to listen to things, that didn't drive her. And so learning how to meet what you need as a learner, as well as your kids' needs as a learner, is pretty important. Another one would be like your parents act like they are your friends instead of your parents. This happens a lot in divorce situations where there's kind of a Disneyland parent, and they give in to everything, and the other parent is left holding the bag all the time. They have to do the discipline. They have to make sure that things are going right. And the Disneyland parent is typically somebody who doesn't have their kid all the time. And so I'm not here to speak against any parents, but I'm just saying it makes it a lot harder on the other parent, because now the kids see one parent as just a friend and not a parent, not somebody who's going to guide them up, train them, mentor them, coach them into real life and adulthood, just somebody to hang out with. So another one would be your feelings are ignored as if they don't exist. You learn that your feelings are nothing. So you build a wall to shield you and others from your feelings, because they're like lava, right? We can't deal with those. We have to be told we can't handle those. You don't have to feel that. So this really is shown when boys tend to cry from a stereotypical perspective. Stop that crying. Man up. What just happened? We just invalidated that young man's feelings and emotions and told him that he should not be having those emotions. Never thought about that, did we? So your natural needs to be seen, felt, heard, or validated just go unmet. It teaches you you're not worth being seen or heard. A major event in your family or home is never talked about. I happen to know a family that there was an abusive situation that happened in that family, and nobody talks about it. They just removed that person from the home and they don't talk about it. And how do you think that victim feels? The person that had that abuse happen to them. Now, what would they think would be okay? Well, if I'm supposed to ignore it, then I guess it just doesn't matter if I go out and do stuff. It's not going to hurt me because this wasn't supposed to hurt me. I'm just supposed to ignore it and keep on going with my life. You will also see this situation for a lot of people who have had abortions. And it's one thing that's not shared with them, that situation and that act actually has left a deep traumatic hole within them, in their heart, in their mind, in their soul, in their spirit, and that's never talked about. And so there's some great organizations like PACE out there that helps people who have walked through that situation that are dealing with that trauma that never got dealt with. So there's a lot of opportunities to come out of this, to learn how to validate your feelings, right? We're going to talk about those in just a minute. Another one is your parent acts as if you are the parent. This happens a lot in single homes where the parent has to work. And this used to be called latchkey kids. And the kids were having to take care of themselves from the moment they got home from school till they went to bed, because mom had to work or dad had to work if they were in single homes. And so that becomes an issue. You receive the message, it's not okay to have needs. And that's where you learn not to ask for help anymore. And you learn to be ultra independent. And you don't depend on anyone or anything for anything. And that tends to bleed over into our relationship with God. And then we don't think he's going to supply all our needs either, because we've been told we have to basically handle them ourselves. That's a big lesson that we have to learn and unlearn, really. You're told that you don't or you shouldn't basically feel the way you feel. That's also a form of emotional gaslighting. And that teaches you to hide your feelings because they can and will be used against you. Could be even in a court of law. I've seen that happen personally. It also undermines your ability to trust your emotions or even yourself. Now, here's another type of invalidation you might not have considered. Non-verbal. It's powerful. It includes rolling the eyes, drumming the fingers, someone checks their watch while you're with them. It's invalidating, as if they have somewhere else to be or to go. We are notorious for this in this day and age with our phones. Even tonight at dinner, my kiddo wanted to go to somewhere special. We're celebrating her first college class and a couple other things that happened today. And so we went to a nicer restaurant and she pulls out her phone. I said, oh, no. No. We are at this nice restaurant and we are going to have conversation. She didn't know what to do with herself. It was quite funny. So part of that is we're training ourselves and we're training each other to spend time in the moment that we have so we can be connected, right? So we're not invalidating each other by doing something else in each other's presence. Showing up at an important event, but maybe just paying attention to email or playing a game on the phone. And that's pretty invalidating. So nonverbal self-invalidation is also working too much, shopping too much, otherwise not paying attention to your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own needs, your own wants. Same thing with that binge watching for the TV that we talked about. So here's some examples of validating responses, because we know what the invalidating are. We feel them all the time. We hear them all the time, right? What do we need to be hearing to feel validated? It sounds like you're really upset right now. Is there anything I can do to help? I understand why you feel that way. Man, it sounds like a tough situation. I'm here to listen if you want to talk about it. I'm going to give you a little side example. I often hear from my daughter something that's going on, and then I'll try to acknowledge what she's feeling by giving a story of maybe something similar that I went through as a kid. I'm just going to let you know, Evidently, teenagers don't like that because they think you just made it all about them, even though you were trying to find a story that connected to what they were saying. Don't do that. Just listen. I've learned that lesson. Just listen. All right. So I'm here to listen if you want to talk more about it. Another good one is just tell me more about it. Tell me more. How does it make you feel? No, that's not just a therapy line, I promise. That does sound difficult. I think anyone would be struggling if that happened. I did not intend it that way, but I can see why you thought my comment was hurtful, and I am sorry. Can I rephrase it? That's just you owning something that you know just hurts somebody else. So even if your intention was not to hurt them, just take accountability for it because they took it as such, right? And then ask permission to rephrase it. Could I try it again? I certainly did not mean to hurt your feelings. I've experienced something similar and I know how hard it is to go through that. Then another option is support without judgment. Keep in mind, emotional validation isn't about agreement. Okay, so you don't have to agree with the chaos that they're sitting in the middle of, but you can just support them and go, wow, I wonder how that's going. Tell me more. You're always entitled to also your own emotions. You should not try to bury them. You've heard me say a million times by now, buried feelings buried alive never die. Really got to stop doing these at this late at night. Because when you bury those feelings, what's going to happen? Guilt, shame, condemnation, unworthiness, disrespect to your own feelings, invalidating your own feelings. Of course, you don't want to lash out and hurt others because of the way you feel. You don't want to be snarky, right? But you do need to try and find a healthy outlet for your emotions. That could be exercise, art, journaling, dancing, walking. Just getting out of the situation could make a world of difference. And if somebody frequently invalidates you, you may want to consider speaking to them about it and even removing them from your life if necessary. And that is a hard decision to come to. Happy to chat about that if you need to. What you also want to do is embrace your emotional validation. You may not be able to erase what's gone on in the past. You can discharge it though. So that negative vibe, that negative feeling, that negative arise within you, that inner healing process that you and I could work together on, that is going to discharge that negative charge, zap, so to speak. And then you can talk about it and you don't have the rise within you. Okay. So the other thing is be present, be mindful of your emotions without pushing them away. You want to have accurate reflection. To reflect really means to make apparent. So for self-validation, accurate reflection is acknowledging your internal state to yourself. How am I feeling right now? At one point, I was working on a particular exercise with somebody, and I had them use Post-it notes, and they had to put on the walls at various places in their life, how am I feeling right now? What emotion do I feel right now? And they had them all over their house. They said that was the best exercise they ever did in their entire life. So there you go. There's a freebie. Get a list of Post-its, make them a really obnoxious color, really obnoxious writing pen, and write those on there on your walls. So you can just stop for a second and kind of ask yourself, check in with yourself. How am I feeling? That feelings wheel that we give you is a good help for that. Couple more, guess. If you don't know what you're feeling, what do you think somebody else would be feeling in that situation? And remember, validation is never about lying to others or yourself or agreeing. It's really about accepting the fact that you have emotions and they're valid and they're understandable, and that becomes extremely powerful. So what are our verses for the day? So we have Galatians 1:10. I am now seeking the approval of man or God. Or am I trying to please man? And if I were still trying to please man, I really would not be a servant of God. 1 Thessalonians 2:4. But just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak, not to please man. Boy, there seems to be a theme here. But to please God, who tests our hearts. Our job is not to please man. So if somebody feels that you are not meeting some expectation that they have, and they're trying to invalidate your feelings around that situation, your job is not to please them. And oftentimes we have to say, that's their insecurities. Those are not my insecurities. And we have to leave that with them. Your last verse is Psalm 118, 6-9. The Lord is on my side. I will not fear. What can man do to me? The Lord is on my side as my helper. I shall look in triumph on those who hate me. I shall look in triumph on those who hate me. Those who tend to invalidate me. Those who tend to put me down. Those who tend to abandon me. I will look in triumph over them. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. And those are the people on earth, right? So keep in mind, you are validated, you are seen, you are worthy, you are influential. You have a purpose and a calling. So we can't invalidate those feelings. They're very important to both of those things. Your purpose and your calling, two completely different things, actually, interestingly enough. And those emotions that you're feeling, we need them to be alive and well in you. We need you feeling them so we know how to have you connect better into your calling. There's a passion within you for what you're going to do. So how do you use this new information about invalidation? It was a lot of information tonight, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood there were some major differences between this intellectual invalidation and the emotional invalidation and all the things that it could do, not only to your heart, but your spirit, to your attitude, your thoughts, your agreements that you're going to make for the rest of your life. So we do want you to work through this. So your 3 questions, because wisdom requires what? Hearing, understanding, and application. How has invalidation been showing up in your life? How have you been feeling invalidated? And how have perhaps you've been making other people feel invalidated, right? And then how has it been negative? And why? Have you been just triggered a lot by something that came along in your childhood? And how can you transform this invalidation by wisdom, understanding, and application as you move forward in it? I'll post these out, and don't forget, add your name to the scripture. Personalize it. He gave you all those promises. Tomorrow's word is performance. How we feel we should act when we feel invalidated, right? We feel like we have to perform now. Oh, I shouldn't have those feelings. So now I have to put a mask on and I have to perform in some way that makes them feel better or them feel more comfortable. Do you see how all of these work together? It's kind of crazy. So join us again tomorrow for more emotions, wisdom in your body. Register at kcrystalgriffith.com to receive more insights and your feeling wheel. And I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. You guys have a blessed day. Bye.